Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I've been asked today to try and articulate for you the business case for extractive industry involvement in the fight against HIV and TB. So it's a very simple question. Why invest in fighting AIDS and TB? I come from a high prevalence country where the burden of disease is significant. Extractive industries, by and large, have big workforces. And the simple answer to the question is it's the right thing to do. And I say that because the foundation of all our HIV and TB programs is a human rights foundation. And simply by articulating those protections for confidentiality, reducing discrimination and stigma, gender equality, and social dialogue, that's what creates the opportunity for us to get involved and protect our human capital. This is the second big answer. It makes economic sense. The cost of HIV to our business, about 50% of that cost comes in absenteeism, another 20% in benefit payments for disability, death, pension benefits. Medical care is 15% of the cost of AIDS. And so what we have found is that by investing in HIV prevention and treatment, we can reduce the cost of HIV to the business from about 4.5% of payroll down to about 3.8% of payroll. That's a very significant reduction in cost. About half of those savings come from reductions in absenteeism, a third from reduced benefit payments, around 6% reduction in recruitment and training costs for skills that we now save, and we reduce the medical costs by around 10%. So it's actually very simple. By providing this care and support, providing the treatment, not only do we have a good moral reason for doing it, but it actually saves us money. It's a no-brainer that to provide the treatment is the best thing for business to do. Over and above that, it reduces the burden of disease. And first and foremost in our workforce, but not only, also in our supply chain and also in our customer base. And for any business in the developing country, if you can reduce the burden of disease, that is good for business because you take away all the cost associated with fighting that disease and you liberate that money for economic development and business growth. So it's in the business interest. And the final reason is that in doing all of this, we carry out our business in a sustainable way. We mine for the future. Many extractive industries are based in developing countries, and improving health in the community creates a very tangible and direct benefit which community members can see from the presence of the industry in that community. So instead of the traditional notion that extractive industries come and make a big mess and make people sick, that is completely an unsustainable way of doing business. By investing in health and looking after the environment, you create a sustainable future for your business as well as for the communities. And the last point to make is that in business, we have a lot of business systems, and we apply those business systems in our response. And I'd like to give you some examples of how it works for us in real life and how those can be shared with our partners. So this table, which is quite complicated, just shows over time our statistics. In 2013, the last column, we had just under 70,000 employees. 11,000 of them are HIV positive, which is 16% of the workforce. You'll see over time that on VCT, and we encourage employees to test every year. Some years we've got over 90%. The worst ever was last year at 75%. This is retesting. We have got 75% of our HIV positive employees now enrolled in our HIV wellness programs. On the very bottom line, you can see how the proportion on antiretroviral therapy has increased over the years. So now it's nearly 50%. HIV and TB simply go together, and this is the data for TB. We have 734 new cases of TB last year. It's interesting to see that fully 27% of those cases were extrapulmonary TB. Our TB incidence at 1,000 per 100,000 is very similar to the incidence rate in South Africa. Sadly, we had 63 TB deaths last year. In our analysis of those deaths, 100% of them were due to uncontrolled HIV infection. This looks very complicated, this table. The colors are, if it's green, it's good. If it's red, it's bad. If it's yellow, it's somewhere in between. But this just shows you the power of systems. This relates to our coal mines, and those are all the individual coal mines in the first column, to give a total population of 9,000. And this is the sort of detailed information that we have. 98% of that population know their HIV status. The HIV prevalence is 16.3%, giving 1,440 patients who are HIV positive. We measure the new conversions day by day. There are 36 by 30th of June 2014. All of our data is real time. First-time positive cases, 7. Our HIV incidence, 0.62%. 58% of our employees retained on ART. And here we go down to viral load measurements and CD4 counts. And people have talked a lot about the 90-90-90 target. Those are our figures. VCT, 98%. On ART, 58%. Viral load undetectable, 64%. In the next slide, I show where we've applied our business approach to risk management, applied to viral load along the x-axis and CD4 count on the vertical axis. And you can see that if your viral load is less than 50 undetectable and your CD4 count is over 500, you really are safe. We have 57% of our employees that are safe, 18% at mild risk, and so right through. Only 10% are at significant risk. Through our programs, we try to drive towards undetectable viral load and CD4s over 500. And when you get it all right, this is what happens to your HIV incidence over time. And I think that really speaks for itself. And alongside of that, if you have a good HIV program, that's what happens with TB incidence. And here you'll see in the coal mines right down to around just over 200 per 100,000, way below the country average. All of this is due to having good information systems, electronic information systems. We have a system called the Health Source, designed by Dr. Jan Pienaar. All of these figures that you're seeing here are Dr. Jan Pienaar's work. It's amazing to have all of that available. And the hands there and the little red fingerprints, it's all done on biometric identification. There are no records that are duplicated. There are no lost records, and we retain them for life. And these are some of the features of a really good information system. I don't have time to go through all of them. But this is the kind of information that through business we can share with all of those who are fighting these epidemics. It's a good investment. Thank you.